So, hello, and welcome. You are joining me for Podcast in a Day. And so, what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on having a podcast just about ready to be born. So, we're going to shortcut our normal podcast creation can be, 3 or 4 months. And we're going to see if we can't just do a little bit of fun creation speed of space. So, let's see. So why don't you both mute yourselves? Cool. And actually, let's see what else. I guess actually before I get started with that, I'm going to just walk through the curriculum real quick, just for everyone listening, I guess later. So we're going to open with visualizing it done. And this is kind of how we pre-integrate it into our life. So this is how we pre-integrate it into our life. So we're going to visualize it done so we can start seeing how a podcast, which comes out with no neural pathways joined to it, and in a year we want to see it very nicely integrated into the world. So we want to see it bringing us things. We want to see it giving things and bringing things and giving things and bringing things. So it might bring us money, or it might bring us clients, it might bring us joy, it might bring us thank yous. There's all kinds of things that might bring us, okay? And again, I have just for housekeeping, if you're going to get up and walk out and come back, just turn your video off, because I'm super ADD. And it's really hard for me to focus if there's a lot of activity on the videos. And that's just my own block. So if you are going to just go do a bunch of things, or go get something to eat, or go to the bathroom or something, just turn the video off so that I can stay focused for everybody. Cool. So let's, we're by the end of today, we're going to have gone through some of the math of building a podcast. We're going to look at some of the really extra things that I bring, some of the energetic things that I bring, so that you can be connected to source and have it be easy and have it flow in and have it be unbothered by distraction. Let's look at the podcast coming in as being so bright of its light that it actually allows you to focus on it with ease, because it's going to grow bigger. There we go. It's kind of like being pregnant, honestly. When that baby's 8 months old, you cannot ignore it. It's in there. It's doing a lot of stuff. You got to feed it. It asks for a lot, but then think about how much a child gives to your life, right? It's really beautiful. So we could think about it that way a little bit. So go ahead and put your feet firmly on the ground, and we're going to bring some earth energy up through the balls of our feet. We're going to go ahead. This is a visualization exercise. So we're going to bring some energy up through the balls of our feet, and then we're going to bring some earth energy down, some celestial energy down. Interesting. So we're going to bring some celestial energy, and go ahead and expand your own energy out as big as all the planets. Go ahead and expand your energy out to galaxies beyond that, and galaxies beyond that. Oh, did you feel that light? Go ahead and expand your energy out to galaxies beyond that, and beyond that. Very nice. And go ahead and pull some celestial energy and surround yourself with that nice celestial energy. And go ahead and ask for a little bit more healing energy, gold energy, to surround you. And just allow that to drip through your entire being. And go ahead and pull up earth energy again. This is blue energy I generally see from the base, the middle of the earth, coming up into the blue earth energy has a very healing. The earth has a lot of healing capacities. It's very healing energy. So go ahead and bring that earth energy up through your knees, the base of your butt, through your women or men's parts, through your solar plexus, your heart area, your throat area, and your third eye area. And go ahead and bring that blue, warm, nice energy up above your head. There's another 12 chakras or so. There's a lot of chakras above our head that is our connectivity to source. So go ahead and just pull golden energy now down through this entire system again. So go ahead and pull the gold energy through the top of your head, through your third eye area, through your throat. Healing that throat energy. The throat energy, this is our communication. So the podcast systems require that we are nice and cool, nice and happy, nice and healed. There's a healing in our throat energy that happens as part of the podcast creation systems. So to the degree that we're being stuck, we want to heal that throat area a little extra as a way of allowing ourselves to communicate our truths, to believe that we are someone worth speaking, to believe that we are worth being listened to believe that our communications matter. So go ahead and just add some extra healing in that throat chakra area. Come down to your heart chakra area. Really nice heart energy. I really get a lot of nice heart energy. So that could be from the people who will be listening to this in the future, from us. It could be from my own heart. It could be from your hearts. I get a really nice healing energy in the heart chakra for everyone connected to this call. So thank you for that. That's really beautiful that I'm perceiving. Now go ahead and send some healing energy to that solar plexus area. This is our our eye energy. This is where we take care of ourselves. Generally, a lot of people who are healers can have weaknesses in this eye, in this self-care energy area. So go ahead and give it a little extra love. And then go down in the second chakra is our creativity, money, and sex. So this is really exciting chakra. It's our orange energy, and it's in our female parts and male parts. And so go ahead and just see that, getting healing light energy from the sun, and really picture golden energy coming and healing that second chakra area. And that's super important for podcasts because creativity is really being called for, right? And so we want to encourage it by having a nice healed second chakra area. And then the base chakra is red, and that's kind of like our security area. So go ahead and send some nice love to that area. Now we've just kind of done a nice chakra cleanse, and now we're ready to do some visualization. So go back up and have some awareness. It's an area that it's a little bit above between your eyebrows, and it's a little higher than that. So it's maybe an eighth an inch and above where the middle of your eyebrows are, and I'm putting my finger on it right now. This is our third eye area. This is where we're able to vision things and know without knowing. So this is where it's also like a BS detector. So this is where we're aware if something resonates true or if it resonates baloney. So go ahead and ask that area. Sometimes we close it down. It's an area that can bring us information that we don't always want to perceive because it is all-knowing. And each of us has this. This is not something special given to one all-seer, not given to others. Every single individual can awaken third eye knowing. There's if one person could do it, anybody could do it. So some people have it easier than others. Some people have it where they've blocked it through centuries of different things. But each of us has the capacity to have this visualizing muscle be stronger than it is. Whatever it is, it can always be different. So I want to share with you just a funny thing. If you're going in traffic or you're in a grocery store after you've done this third eye opening exercise, I want to let you know that you can also choose to close it down. So I'm opening it with you now. We're opening it now. We're asking that third eye knowing to be open. And I want to give you something that like no one really told me when I was doing this work to myself, that I don't have to go into, say, a grocery store with my third eye knowing wide open. I can also kind of close it or gently have it be less perceiving if I'm going to be in a scenario where I don't really want to know every single thing that's in every corner of everywhere that I am, if that makes sense to you all. Good. I'll take a deep breath. And now I'm going to ask you to float a little bit above your timeline. So your timeline is that which marks out where you're going to be in your future. So I'm going to ask you to gently float up, kind of just see if you can float up, and just look at January 2020. Now, this is a little bit more than a year from now, so if you're doing this exercise, say in the middle of 2019 or the end of 2019, then go ahead and go 1 year from now. And the now that we're in right now when I'm recording would take us to January 2020. So just float up again, and gently look at that 2020. And just see if the podcast that you're in creation upon, that you were in creation upon, would like to communicate anything with you. Just kind of reach out and say hello to it. So my show just said to me, I would like to open more doors for you. I'm opening doors for you. So see if the podcast is going to give you messages about how it would like to contribute, and then maybe how it already is. So if we're in 2020, what has it already brought to you? What kinds of things did you ask it to bring to you? Did it bring you thank yous? Did it bring you appreciation? Did it bring a sense of wonder? Did it have more listeners than you'd pictured? Did it help someone? Was it a helpline? So for some reason, I'm seeing some of our shows that we're building on this program as being helplines for people. So they're like helplines that people get, and then they don't have to do what they were going to do. So it could be a helpline from a suicide, or it could be a helpline for believing and having faith again. Or maybe it's a helpline for, I'm seeing that a lot. So see what your podcast would like to contribute to you and the planet and to its audience. Go ahead and picture people in a stadium. Picture a stadium and pull energy from all the planets through the stadium, through those beings in bodies, to your podcast. And then just let your podcast give back to all those people. And this is really hard for me to do because I like to demand my shows to do certain things. Maybe just ask the podcast, how big is the stadium? What would be good for it? What would it be fun for it? Instead of telling it has to have a huge stadium, what would it really like? Nice. And now just picture the podcast. Kind of get a sense of its energy. So mine jumps up and down a lot. Mine's super excited. Mine's the kid in the classroom saying, pick me, pick me, pick me, raising their hand. I have a Shrek podcast. I get that energy of, it was a little animal in, it was the animal in Shrek. It wasn't Shrek, it was that little donkey. And he was like, pick me, pick me, pick me. That's my podcast energy. See if your podcast would like to reveal to you its essence. Yeah, that's fun. Does it like men or women? Does it like both? Is it equal? Does it skew one way or the other? My show is about 60% women, 40% men. It's kind of interesting. Oh, what is it, when your show's not being listened to, is it still helping people by existing? Is your show helping people just being there? Just beaming itself out? Kind of like a book that you put under your pillow. Is it still nourishing you even if you didn't read it? Right? Yeah. And for those people for whom this whole conversation seems like you've suddenly fallen off the planet and you're in some weird Oz, you can ask some questions of your podcast, like how often do you air? What day of the week do you air? What time of day do you air? And ask it to show you it, because it's already in this visualization. It's already got legs. It's already breathing. It's already helping people. It's already on the air. It's already showing up. It's already dressed. So go ahead and just ask it. Do you want to be weekly? Do you want to be daily? Do you want to be 3 days a week? 2 days a week? What time of day do you like? Do you like Sundays? Ooh, Sundays are juicy. Mondays are very popular. Thursdays are good. Friday is kind of nice. You get to go into the weekend. Saturday now. Saturday's child is hardworking or something. Saturday I got like a lumberjack energy on a Saturday, like a building thing energy on a Saturday. Sunday I got kind of a esoteric, ethereal energy where we allow ourselves to go to church. If we go to church, we allow ourselves to connect to God on Sundays. So just kind of tap into some of those like mores, mores being society's habits and patterns. Like Christmas is, celebrating Christmas is a societal more in some countries, some religions, and not in others. Kwanzaa is a kind of a society pattern. So does your podcast have any special holidays that it likes more than others? Does it want to celebrate certain things more than others? Mine likes New Year's Day because that's its birthday. So mine loves New Year's Day. That's its favorite day of the year, I think. It's a birthday, so I guess it's normal for it to like it that much. Just kind of get to know your show. Get acquainted with the energy of your show. And the overarching energy that I'm perceiving from the listeners of this recording, past, present, and future, the overarching theme I'm receiving is healing. So isn't that beautiful? I'm so grateful for you to come create a podcast that I'm sensing so many of you are going to be using the podcast to have a healing influence on those who listen. It doesn't get better than that. So now I'm going to have you ask one more thing for your podcast, and just the word ease came up from more than one of you. So let's let it show you how it can be perfect ease in your life. So that could be creating 1 day a month. Could be creating 7 days a week. So do you want to create it on 1 day a month or 30 days a month? What works for you, right? What works for you? Because you're not anyone else and your podcast isn't anyone else. Now, how can it help you in your life and give you more of what you've been asking? Ask it to trickle back those pieces of data for you. Okay? And then just come back to the present. Say goodbye to your podcast. Say it's okay. We'll be in creation upon you. Thank you for any information you received in this visualization. And go ahead and come back to center. Come back to present. Wow. How was that, guys?
Very cool. Yeah.
Isn't
It's
that
very cool.
fascinating?
Yeah, yeah. I got the energy for mine as like a wealthy, like a very wise woman.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
um, yeah, like that was the energy of mine. Yeah, and it gave me the awareness of what the distraction is just for the last 18 years I've been sick, and I'm choosing something different. And so I'm beginning to create my life, which is something I've never actually really done. So it's just a new familiar territory. So yeah, that's so just knowing that it's like starting at 53, you know.
I can see your podcast carrying a flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
um,
got a leadership energy too.
mm.
Yeah, it's nice. What about you, Bree? Did you bring anything back you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, well, I had been really, really having issues deciding on the days. And I saw Monday and Friday first, and I saw Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and three different energies for each day. And I really liked that. But it just told me it wanted to exist. So I think it does want the energy out there of whether or not people listen to it, it does help and it does exist.
So, did you get any further clarity on days or not?
I heard Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I'm just connecting to it.
Okay.
So, what I do for mine is I have themes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have Turn It Up Tuesdays, Wellness Wednesdays, Transformation Thursdays, Fresh Fridays. Saturdays are kind of a catch-all. I don't really have one. And then I have Sassy Sundays, and I have Major Rockstar Mondays. So I actually let the days, each day does have a different energy.
Mm-hmm.
Although my whole show was really funny when I listened to it and today with you guys. It was a really eager show. So that was just fascinating to me because I really wasn't present to that. Does that make sense? Like I didn't have a presence to that. So that, I mean, it makes sense because I'm like that. So I mean, it made sense, but I didn't know that. And then I thought it was very interesting. It told me it liked its birthday the best day of the year. So that what that tells me is that it does matter. The day that it first starts matters, the day you launch it, because I got that it actually was something that it liked. And I had one author, he's really interesting, his name is J.R. Sadivi. I can't say his name that well. He had me, when I first uploaded his book, he had me track the day of creation of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't actually like the day it was first in hands. He chose the day that it got a body. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of interesting with the book because there's so many times when you're finishing and starting and finishing and starting, finishing and starting it. But he chose it consciously. So he asked me to do it at a set time on a set day because he looked at the stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And see, I don't do any of that stuff around that really. Like, I don't do any of the astrology stuff very much. But if you do honor things like that, then have an awareness of the role that will play in your show. You know, just kind of like have it be one more thing that could be a contribution to your show being a success. So if like you don't put a lot of, like, I don't really put a lot into astrology as far as like, it's not that I doubt it or don't doubt it. It's just never had a lot of big meanings for me. But another one of my clients, her numbers matter a lot to her. So she chose certain numbers for the day of the launch.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a January certain number added up to a certain number, which subtracted to a certain number. Now, again, I'm really not that. I like the numbers 8 and 9 a lot, but I don't really like base my choices around those kinds of things. But I just want to let you know that if you do believe in certain things, and then honor it and make it kick ass for you. It's like, just don't ignore it. Like, if it works for you to be on a certain day of the week, kick ass with it. If you don't have any awareness of it mattering, then choose anything you want, you see? So, because it probably doesn't matter that much. It's like, it's okay either way is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I have a client who does not go to the bathroom without checking her chart, and she will not do anything on void of course. It's like, if the moon is not connected, which is the void of course energy, she won't do anything. So, yes.
Well, I don't even know what that is, but it sounds really weird.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like the only thing that I can say is that while we are all equal in the sense of each of us matters the same amount, each of us matters the same amount. No one matters more than you. No one matters less than you. We are equally in how much we matter and how important we are. But we're not equal in terms of like what works for us, what doesn't work for us. Everybody's different in terms of what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So that's where your choice of these things as we navigate this creation process is so vital, that we really allow what matters to us matter to our podcast, matter to our books, matter to our creations, matter to our who we date. You know, what matters to us matters, because that's what's going to help us evolve. That's why we've been given some of these things. It doesn't mean you can't change it too. You know, like you could, one time I got fascinated by angels. So I think it was in like 1980. And I got super interested in angels, and I just started reading all about them. And I know that I have very powerful angelic counsel. I have very powerful counsel around me, preventing me from dying from some of my really stupid mistakes I made. Like, I'm very present to the powerful being on the other sides that help me, right? But as I've gotten older, and Lori, it's really interesting that you're blossoming in your 50s, right? It's fascinating because you're going to do this huge blossom, and I actually see it, Lori, for you. It really looks like about a 10-year thing. It's going to be crazy. Like, you'll be so wild in your 60s, you're not even going to recognize yourself. It's interesting.
Okay. One of the things that came up for me when I was doing my thing with my podcast, and it was interesting because it didn't even occur to me till you and I started talking this morning. There's another podcast that wants to be born. It's my Patron of the Creatives thing. And it started talking. And I actually, when I was doing the visualization, got more energy on that than my Candle Magician one. So what is your theory on launching two at once? Or should you keep them separate? Or what do you think about that?
Well, the creative one has beautiful energy. I think it'll be easier to communicate what that is to audiences. So it could be an easier first one.
Yeah.
And then even though you've been working on the candle work, it feels like if you launch the creative one and then about 6 months later launch the candle one, and you can be creating shows, so it can be like rolling out. So when you do launch it, you don't have to not create it now. But I got that the creative one would be easier for people to say yes to who don't know you yet as a podcast host. Because the word creative would be in it, and that's a really and you are brilliantly creative. I mean, you're both. You're a candle magician and you're brilliantly creative. So, you know, we have our gifts. So so the creative one I got would be much easier to find a home in the podcast space. I also get that podcasters really need it. Not just the audience of everyone who likes creativity or requires more ways of awakening their creativity, which is a very passionate thing that people feel they want to help themselves with, especially as we shift out of sort of the rote work into the more creative space of people entrepreneurialism. There's a real need for people to awaken the creative juices. It's going to be required a lot in the next decade. It's just going to be required of everyone to tap into that creative space, because the world's changing fast. We're changing faster. So if we're not evolving, then we're going to start having less good lives. So that creativity feels like it's really being beckoned. And then what I got was those audience, podcast listeners are very loyal. And so the energy magician one, or candle magician one, if you worked on that one, that gave it more of a slow burning lead in, like maybe 8 to 10 weeks, tease people it's coming. So that it didn't just show up. Like creativity feels like you could show up and it would just get audience. The other one, it seems like you might want to work on, hey, it's coming, start having images, it's coming soon, start building the thirst. There's something in there. There's some resistance to that I'm perceiving, of letting people, like Fast and Furious 8 or Fast and Furious 9 is coming out next summer. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Wrinkle in Time is going to come out in March 2019 or 2018, right? Like letting people salivate for that show to build so that when it pops, it has like that show seems to want more of a build up. Then the creativity one feels like, honestly, you could almost make it. Honestly, you shouldn't make it while you're sleeping, but it almost seems so easy that you could almost make it.
Well, I could, because what it's about is things tell me stories. And on Facebook, I've attracted all these a lot of them are men, which surprises me, who make jewelry, who put these wonderful stories like in their pendants and things. And it's just amazing. So there would be lots of guests. And all the stories are very different depending on the person's energy who's making them. So
wow.
Yeah.
Lori, do you get any other hits for Bree that you could contribute to her?
No, it's just, well, she's talking, these ideas are just popping for me and I'm writing them down. So, but I do actually, I do happen to agree energetically that the second podcast that came talking to her seems to, it has that. And I like the idea of launching the other one a bit later, like whatever that is. Yeah, that's the awareness I got too.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. To have an awareness of when you allow these things, like Lori, if it's giving you ideas, when you allow it to be like that, it's so much easier. And people don't really understand how much easier it is when you let the show be itself. It's so much easier than trying to fit it into a box. So if someone says, well, what's the best length for a show? That's the question I get asked a lot. Because between 10 and 11, we're supposed to talk about, for my curriculum, length, duration, frequency. So these are things I get asked all the time. Like every single time I do a webinar, every single time I speak to anyone about it, how long should my show be? And what we're tapping into on this class, which is so phenomenal, and I'm just blessed beyond belief that you both are here with me today to do this, is a show doesn't in and of itself have the perfect, you can't put from the outside in on a show. So what you want to do is tap into your audience, tap into the show energy, and then tap into your own creative energy. And there's going to be a place where that meets. And that's the sweet spot for your show length. It is really important to keep the show around the same length. And resisting that kept me from succeeding for 3 years. And it's important to keep it on a certain day. And resisting that kept me in failure. So resisting not having it on a set day for people and not having it a set length for people kept me in failure. So if you don't want anyone to watch your show, vary the day and vary the length, and then they won't know where the hell you are. And it's really good. People do this all the time. I'm just going to make it. I'm just going to pop it up. I'm just going to let it go. And the problem with that is that people just have a hard time following it. And podcast listeners are loyal. They're loyal. They have it in their phone, people. They have you in your head. That you're in their head, for heaven's sakes. I mean, they're letting you be in their head. It's just a crazy honor that they're giving to you. They're putting you in their head. Whoa. They're like, it's like you've been at a garden and you've raised, organic fruit, and they're eating it at your table. And, how many people get to do that with you if you're actually raising fruit and actually having food on a table? That's your family. So a podcast audience becomes almost, in a way, they're eating from you. They're almost like an inner family. It's fascinating. But it's so wide that you can be family with all these people that can be nourished by you. It's an amazing tool. It's just, it still blows me away because it's so easy to create with your own chi, your own energy, your own vocal. Your voice has your imprint in it. Every healing you've done, Lori, is in your voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every program, Bria, when you're evolving, that's going to be carried in your voice to people. They're going to be able to, you can actually, this is so fascinating. You can actually learn from someone else how their brain's grown by being in their presence. So by giving someone your podcast juice, they're learning from me how to interview other people. They might learn from my show, or they might learn how to be interested in everything, because I'm fascinated by just about everything. There's so little I'm not fascinated by, because the more you study anything, the more interesting it gets. That blew me away in college. Like, the more you studied how the ear works, the less they know. I thought it would be the opposite, that the more you learn, the more you know. But actually, the more you learn, the less you know, because we don't all know. And so as we're studying things, what they'll say is, well, as you get deeper into science, they'll say, well, we believe it works like this because this is what we've seen. But they don't say it actually for sure works like this, because they're not really sure sometimes. And so it drove me crazy when I went to university and I couldn't just learn something that was exactly like this. And it was just drove me crazy. And I think with podcasts, it's sort of similar, that the more you know about it, the less you actually know of like what makes a podcast great, because it will vary by individual. And so the most common time is probably 20 minutes. That's probably like the most average time. So if you don't know and you can't get your show to tell you, and you're just very frustrated with all this woo-woo, have your show be 20 minutes and you're going to be fine. But let me tell you this. If after 8 minutes your energy wanes and you go into monotone, it's not going to help you to have 20 minutes. But, you might need 45 minutes. I'm not naming names, but some of you guys are pretty damn fantastic.
Well, when I used to do, like, I've been on a couple of different radio shows, plus done Blog Talk Radio and stuff like that in the past. And so I've done 30 minutes and I've done an hour, or, minus commercials. What keeps popping for me is Monday to Friday inclusive. And I kept getting 15 minutes, although I really liked when you said 20. And I want to know if you guys have any feedback on this, but I loved your idea of like me doing like Majestic Monday. Tasty Tuesday would be about like recipes or cooking or something I find testing.
Yes.
Weird Wednesdays. So it allows me to, pull out my, angel cards that I love and maybe do a reading on one or something. Thoughtful Thursday and Fun Friday. And then possibly, I like the idea too of allowing a guest day, for shits and giggles, because, and so I'm not sure, should I like, do you get a sense with the 15, 20 minutes and or a guest day? Because I'm good at talking, but I'm also a really great interviewer too. So
I kind of got body chills when you were talking, and that's usually my sign that you're right on. So when my body goes chills, it usually tells me you're in perfect alignment.
Okay.
So I'll tell you a funny thing I know about 15 minutes, because what happened was before television, things would have certain lengths, and then television came along, and they would do a 30-minute show, and they would break at 15 minutes. So they would go about 14 minutes in, and they'd have a 2 to 3 minute break, and then they do another 14 minutes. And then they started going to 8 minutes, and they'd have 2 commercial breaks. So for me, 3 8s make a 30. So when I made my show, I wanted to get good at 8-minute interviews in case I ever wanted to do a 30-minute TV show, which generally you would have 3 guests for a talk show. You normally do 8, 10, something like that. So it's like 3 8s make a 30. So 15 minutes, though, in the early TV was the break. And so everybody got kind of monkey trained to want a break after 15 minutes. So if you look at the 60-minute radio shows, they usually go 15 break, 15 break, 15 break, end. 15 break, 15 break, 15 break, end. So habitually, our culture, and if we look at your audience, is probably between 40 and 80, right? It's probably the second half. So we were all, your audience was all raised in the 15-minute break thing. So for it to be 15 minutes feels really light and comfortable to me for your audiences. And you could do a 30 that you split into 2 also. So you could also do 2-parters if it got more deep. But 15 super light for me. Yeah. And I would integrate interviews, not have an interview day. I would keep your themes. And like for instance, I interviewed Elfie Joe. She's so fun. Put her on a fun play day, you know? Like, she does the flute, and she's so cool. She played the flute for me on my show. She made up some original thing on my show. Like, she played original music during my shows. Most amazing, beautiful thing. She's so funny too. So you could just like have your themes, and then when you feel like doing a guest, just bring them in. I don't think you need to have it be the only thing that if you never, ever, ever do guests and then do a guest once, it might be kind of off-putting if they're really used to your voice and they listen to 100 podcasts of your voice, and then all of a sudden it's 2 voices. That might turn some people off. You don't know. But if you have a guest every once in a while and you just promote it that way, so then they don't know. They might get a guest, they might not. And if you're at ease with that, then I don't think you need to really, you don't need to, I don't think it take now. One other way that has been very successful for one of my clients, and I'll screen share for this. You guys have been so amazing. Okay, so I'm going to show you with this podcast it's actually climbing the charts now. It's doing so well. It's actually like on its own without anything weird. It's like 17,000 downloads and 250,000 listens in 22 episodes. So just to put that in perspective, my show's at 500,000 after 500 shows. So they're at 200, they're at 250,000 after 22 shows. Got potency? But they do a guest, and then they do the chat of them. So they're 2 attorneys, and they've been doing this girl talk for years where they talk about their problems. They talk about their clients to each other, and they make it kind of funny. So that's them talking, and there's a guest. That's them talking, and there's a guest. And that's them talking, and there's a guest. And that's them talking. So they do every other pretty much. But every once in a while, they go guest, guest. So if it has, like, they just choose it. But mostly they do unguest, guest, unguest, guest in a, like, predictable way. the nice thing about guests, and I love the idea, Bree, of your guests coming and talking about their stories for their things. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant way for a podcast to grow an audience. Because every time you put a guest on and then you promote that, the guest will put it out to their people. So then all their people will listen to your show. And the way people are now, once they like one show, they download a bunch of shows. So the way that the audience takes a podcast in is they download it and then they listen to it in their headphones. So once they like one, so now let's say you had a guy named Jim on and he made this beautiful thing and it had a really interesting story. So he made a pendant, it had a story. And he shares that on his social. And whoever's meant to see it, it's going to populate all over because podcasts and energy and entities, they all talk. And and actually entities can manipulate electronics. So your show can, like, let's say someone is very sad about something and I have a guest on who's going to have a topic that's going to heal that person. The podcast might jump over and get in front of them if it's out enough. Like, it can't do it if it's never shared. I shouldn't say it can't. It certainly can. I mean, you can find things without anyone promoting it, right? You can find authors you like just because it's on the shelf in the library near another author, and it'll just pop for you, right? It's the same thing with how people choose shows. Or it might get recommended. But having a guest is just a fabulous way to bring your audience to new audiences.
Okay.
Now, if you're calculating it and you're really using this to build your business, then what you want to do is you want to have guests with huge social media audiences. So if you're really trying to, like, say it's the first 3 months of the show and you want to give your show every chance of being widely populated to all the neural pathways where people can find you and all the places you want them to go, then in those 90 days, stack 9 really amazing guests that have big reaches. And then do guests with smaller reaches later on in your show's history. Because my show now is well off enough that I can have people with, I just think are amazing, but maybe they don't have that much audience. But my first month, I stacked that deck, babe. Oh my gosh, I had Glenise Hughes. I had people with huge audiences. I had Corey Michelle. I had John Lee Dumas came on my show the first month, who has his own 500,000 audience. And I did it to stack the deck so my show could get out there, right? So it could, like, really have fun. And I was very intentional about it. I said, I'm really looking for people who have a lot of audience my first month of my show. And that, I don't think audience count or list size or, I don't think that, like, has to be a major indicator. You could do it on someone who has the best expertise ever in that, like the top 1% of 1% in that. But have a reason when your guest gets chosen, I guess is what I'm being shown, is have it be, now it could just be like the most interesting story ever. It could just be they have a really interesting story.
Okay. Well, on these, oh, my nose is itching, so we got a lot of energy moving. Awesome.
Me too. That's all. Is that what it is? Is that why my nose does that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of. Yeah. We hold a lot of truth energy in our sinuses where we're not in our truth, and so when it starts coming in, sneezing and itching, it's all stuff moving and trying to come out. So.
Thank you.
Well, with some of this, like, let's say this. This is a guy who makes all these glass hearts, who's a heart master. He's got a lot of past life stuff with brokenheartedness and all this healing, wonderful stuff. But he doesn't know it. I can just get it out. So the interviews would kind of be, I would have to do some work on getting the stories all straight. But I think I can do that because he doesn't really know. But his would be his story about why he does this. And then I would talk about why he really does this. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say when you're doing something on a podcast, really, the word is not exacerbate. I'm getting to really be there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't even stop for a minute and try to dumb yourself down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, be that essence, that, because the podcast allows you to connect with like beings, and they're going to be so grateful that someone else exists that's a little bit like them. So it gives us a around the world reach of people when they tune in, and they get so excited that you exist, that someone exists on the planet who understands them a little bit more than someone who doesn't.
Right.
So me understanding what you just said, you know, it was kind of hard for me to understand what you just said. I'll be honest. Like, it was like, I mean, I understood it, but like I could, if you asked me to repeat it, I couldn't. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
at the same time, it was so cool that I was interested in it. Do you see? And so to me, that's like a perfect podcast type of thing, because it's like, it allows you to be, people like it if you're out there. They don't want something. I'll tell you what doesn't work is if you just regurgitate stuff everyone else says and you're bored when you do it.
Yeah.
That's a real good way to have a podcast not go viral.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna regurgitate stuff, and I'm not gonna be interested in it while I say it. I got interviewed by someone. He is a podcaster, but when he interviewed me, oh, I know. I'll tell you one of my worst ones. Okay, because that guy was pretty nice, but this is another guy that interviewed me. I've been on a lot of shows in my life, so I attract media really easily. So he literally didn't tell me, and Lori, you're going to die. He's a radio guy. And he walked out away from the mic, and he left me 20 minutes. But he didn't tell me he was leaving. So he started interviewing me, and then he said, why don't you tell me more about that? And he left for 20 minutes. But he didn't tell me
That's rude.
He didn't tell me he was going to do that. So I was like, so what do you think about that? Silence. So I did it twice where I would try to connect with him until I got the 411 that he was gone. And then I felt really weird. It was his program. And so I made a mental note. He asked me to come on again at some point. And I'll tell you what, guys, I interacted with him so much, I didn't let him leave. But it was funny. I didn't really call him on it. You know, I was a lot younger. Like now I don't think, this was like in 2010 or 11, you know, when my first book came out. So probably 2008, I think. So I was a lot less empowered than I am now. Because like I would never go back on a show with someone that did that. Why would I ever play with them again, you know? So there's people that are bored with their shows. And so that brings me to another point, which is like, how do I stand out? I don't think any of us are going to have that problem. Right? So length, frequency, and duration. Both of you have clarity now, it sounds like. With the creative one, how often does that want to air?
I hear every day, but with different themes. And I was hearing this with the Candle Magician, but I think it's with this one too. It's just telling the stories. It's like sometimes it's an interview, and sometimes like it's a story about, you know, what this says, you know, that kind of thing. So it does feel 15 minutes, 8 or 15 minutes, and I bounce back and forth with that.
Okay, interesting. So the only thing I would say is based on connecting ease with execution or whatever, I think the Monday, Wednesday, Friday could be more ease.
Okay.
What do you think?
And I absolutely agree with that, because it will take a lot of work, because I got to get everything down. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then I recommend 3 to 4 weeks in advance for recording. So if any of you, I generally like, I'm almost done with, I'm done with January. Let's see. Okay, I have 3 days left and then I'll be done with January. But I'm done with January through January 23rd. And so on this date, I'm actually, 4 weeks and 10 days ahead. I'm certainly done with December. So for me, what's been ease is to have things nicely lead time. Now, my guests don't always like it. That's the only thing I'm finding. But I try to make being on the show fun, and I try to really share it with people and sing the praises of it good. And for me, the lead time gives me peace. So, and even though I could technically create a show a day, that would just not be ease for me to always have it be there hovering around me. So knowing I'm done the other thing is sometimes you'll lose your voice and sometimes you'll get a cold and sometimes you'll get a fever, sometimes you'll get called out of town. So you'll have an unexpected thing happen. So having 3 to 4 weeks of shows built is a really nice lifestyle choice. Having said that, I try to give myself a little space if there's like a big thing happening on a certain date, that I try to honor that with, like, for me, because my show was born to promote authors. So if one of my authors has a new book coming out, then I'm going to try to focus that day for them. In other words, even though I have all these things planned, I give myself room to change it if I want to. If something comes up that's just too juicy, too delicious, can't resist it, So I both build a structure, but then I also give myself a little flexibility, and that's how it works for me. So you're gonna just look at like what I got for you, Lori, was kind of interesting. Your days could be created in a sequence, so you could do your tasty ones together. Like you could record one or record 2 at a time, or 3. You could almost like it depending on your energy for it, so that you could also, if you had day themes like that, you could really do that. It's kind of interesting. Any other questions on frequency, duration, naming? I think we're pretty good with naming, right? I'll do a little naming. I think I'll do a little naming for, actually, you know what, Bree? Do you want to do a little naming information? Do you want to share with the listeners? Because you're really good at naming.
Naming.
Like how to name a show, how to come up with a name.
Asking what it is and asking what will connect with your audience too. Are you asking what mine is or the creative one? I was just going to use it, Patron of the Creatives, which is what the website is and the series of the books is going to be.
Lori, what about you for naming something? Because you've done this a lot with radio shows and Blog Talk Radio. And
you mean naming?
Like how to figure out the best name for a show. What do you advise? What's your advice?
Oh, gosh. Well, usually they just kind of talk to me. So, yeah, it would depend totally on the show as it showed up, So, yeah, but nothing is coming to mind.
I know, it's so interesting for me with naming, because I feel like when we're sitting here in this sort of workshop type environment where like I'm teaching it, but the way that names show up to me is so creative that it's really hard to teach it. So I had one client, and she had come up with some names that were, I wasn't getting any, like they weren't, you know what I mean? So I said to her, well, you know what I like to do is I like to go swimming, take a bath. I go, it happens in that space that's almost like between conscious and consciousness. It's like super conscious. So it comes in and it's like you were just doing something else, like you were riding. I would ride my horse and I would get the best ideas come in, then I'd have to like stop and jot things down, try to make him stand still. So she said to me, well, I don't have time for that, Erica. So and she kind of sat there and she went into a meditative state on the call with me, and she was just quiet for a few minutes. And then it showed up in her head and it was perfect. Because she goes, I don't have time to go get into a meditative state. I need to just have it show up brilliantly now. And actually, I'll show you the show. It's really good. She is really brilliant too. But she did it just like that. She just goes, well, I don't have time for that. So I'll show it to you guys. Share screen. Cool. So it just showed up on the call. So she's a mompreneur. So she teaches people how to be a mompreneur. And so she calls it In My Sweats, because she builds her business, but she lets herself wear sweats while she's doing it. So she says, learn and laugh with your girlfriends each week with host Jay Menz, founder of fearfultofit.com. So she wanted to get her Fearful to Fit. Her first name was going to be Fearful to Fit, which is her business name. But she's really outgrowing, and I see this a lot with a lot of my clients. That's why I'm sharing this specifically with Jay Menz, is you want it to be a little bigger than where you are right now because you want to grow into it. So, or it could be the same. I mean, I really got with Patron of the Creatives, it's perfect. So, I mean, that just was like perfect. Like I didn't have any, it was perfect. It's like, it's almost telling me like, it's almost telling me, Bree, it's almost like, yeah, why haven't you made me already?
Yes, it's been yelling at me since the summer, so yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's almost like, hello. It's almost like, hello. Like I've been over on the other side getting created, and I'm like really created, and I'm really built, and all you have to do is just really tap and I'll come. It's almost like in a big barrel, and you just have to like open the top and like pour it out and then like serving it to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the energy of your show. It's great.
Yeah.
And I think with her, let me think if I have some other ones I can share that I love. I love all the ones I've worked on. Let's see. I love this one. I love Lauren Polly's show. So now we just looked back and we saw the Jay Menz description. It was learn and laugh with your girlfriends. That was her description, right? I don't know if you can see it on the share screen, but it was like one line, right? Now look at Lauren Polly's description. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines. So one of the other things people ask me is, hey, what's the right length of a description? I want the exact right length of a description. I want you to tell me exactly what I need for my description. And then I'm faced with these different clients who are both having successful shows that are reaching their people. But if you think about it, look at this, guys. A mompreneur, how much time does she really have? Right? She's doing a business. She's a mom. You know, she might have a husband too. She has a place. She has all this stuff to do. So a really short description for a mompreneur is probably perfect, right? Now, if we look at Lauren helps people who really need to break through some pretty intense emotional roller coasters. So her job on the planet, as she's chosen to evolve, is to help people. So her book is The Other Side of Bipolar. And so Lauren is a gifted healer. Her shows are about 15, 20 minutes, and they're like a free therapy session. Like, honestly, she's so amazing. You actually, when you're hearing her 15 minutes of change, she's changing people. So for her description to be super long, like that to me made a lot of sense. And for Jay Menz, it made sense for it to be short. And then we'll just show mine to see what I do. I don't really remember. see if I walk the talk. See how long mine is. So mine's kind of in the middle, right? And this works for me. So this is an 8-minute inspirational podcast. And I just changed it, Bree, from Lightworkers and Entrepreneurs. I changed it to 8-minute inspirational podcast on happiness, healing, and infinite love. So for 2019, the focus is not on entrepreneurs anymore. Because it was really funny when I came to that. I came to like, I want to focus more intensely on happiness and healing next year. And so I shifted the energy of my podcast for 2019. It's very interesting. I still like entrepreneurs, of course. So, but you can see, so the first one I did in the new energy of that, I called it Light Workers Get Bright. It's about light workers shining their light brighter, which is something I'm really passionate about. So this one's a creative energy pull. Mine switches between, I have Sassy Sundays is just my voice, and the rest is all guests. And then let's look at another one. Let's see what else other ones wants to be shown. Let's look at Audacious. This is really funny. So this one, don't you just love her logo? It's so cool. So she looked at another logo that she liked, and she gave it to her designer, and she has her picture and her saying, but she did find another logo that she loved and then gave it to her designer. And so it actually looks like a couple, there's one other show that has a little bit of a similar feeling to it. And you can do that. You can find another show that you love, and then you can like take that logo and mock up your own, but have it be energetically kind of like that one. You don't have to start from zero and try to make up the perfect logo out of air. You can actually, most people who hang out with me know that I publish books. And so when you're looking at how to get a book cover, and Brie, I know you write books, you look at what are the covers that you'd like, what are the covers that do well in your category, and then what I ask mine to do is to outcreate those. So I don't say, oh, I want it to look like that. I say, I want a logo that will actually outcreate the one that I saw that I like that does well. So I ask my book covers to outcreate, say, if I'm doing a book on real estate, I'm going to ask that book to outcreate other real estate best-selling books. Look at all the best-selling books in real estate, and I'm going to say, I want my cover to absolutely pop out bigger than any of those. Okay? So that's how I do it. I don't, you can do your logo however you like, of course. But you want to have one that when you look at it, it does something to kind of quicken your energy so it contributes to you. So if you don't like it anymore, it's really important to change it too. So you can have it be the same for quite a while, and then you might say, you know what? It's not really contributing to me. When I look at it, I feel tired. Okay, well, this is a good time to change your logo. So you want to have your logo be a contribution to you energetically. It's really hard to explain this to most people, and I know you guys get it perfectly. So it's really fun to have you on the call today. Because you're getting everything so perfectly. With Jennifer, I really like her length of description. She's got, if you're sick of just enough showing up in your life and never way too much fun, prosperity, love, and laughter, then you're in the right place. Are you ready to be audacious? Join host Jennifer Kramer Lewis to receive profitable possibilities, fuel your curiosity, and turn on your audacious life and living. Grab her free resource at bit.ly/audaciously. I'm going to have to check that because I don't know if that Lee is supposed to be there. Jennifer has facilitated hundreds of entrepreneurs and co-created custom solutions for them to add audacity and profitability into their lives and businesses. If you're feeling stalled, stuck, or stonewalled, you just love being inspired to do more, then Jennifer created Audacious just for you. Join Jennifer Sundays and sometimes more than that for Audacious. So she's every single Sunday, and then she sometimes adds more shows. So that's kind of how she chose. So she would have one thing every Sunday they could count on, but then sometimes she'll get another show. And I'll tell you something funny also that I think she'd be totally okay with me sharing, that her podcast started out being, it was going to be a repeat of her TV show. She has a TV show called Audacious. So she was going to have it repurposed, right? And the podcast said no. And so it started in like April, and it was just gonna be like a replay, and it ended up being a completely new show, completely audacious, out of control, out of creativity, out of bounds. And so it actually got going in October when it was ready. So even though it wanted to get started in, May, it kept changing. So she actually did two with the original format, and this is very normal. This is very normal. I'm actually saying this is a good thing, because by the time it actually was born, it was exactly what it wanted to be, and now it's doing very well. So it took time to hone in on what it really, the truth of it, like the best thing for it. So that's kind of that on that. So for naming, generally what I like to do is look at wow, naming is kind of a big topic. Let me think. I would say, first of all, you have to love it. So if you don't love it, it's not going to stand the test of time for you. So even if someone else thinks it's a great name, if it doesn't make you go at all, and you haven't even done the show yet, if it doesn't give you that little bit of quickening, then you want to go, could it be named something different or better? Also, if it's your brand, then you don't have to worry that much about naming. So I have one show I'm about to build, and her brand is called The Blonde Files, and we're in creation of it. I'm going to show it to you. Let's see. Ready? So her thing is health and wellness, and she teaches how to heal your gut from following your instinct, and she teaches people wellness. And it started being called The Blonde Files as kind of a funny thing, which she did on Instagram as a challenge. So someone challenged her to something, and so she started putting it on Instagram, kind of almost as like an offhanded thing. And it started really taking off, got a life of its own. So her show is going to be called The Blonde Files Chat. Does that make sense? So if you have a brand, or you have something that you've already built, like Bree does with this, then it makes a lot of sense to name it in alignment with that. Some other people want the podcast to be bigger, like if you've only done dieting. Like one of my clients teaches dieting, and she teaches how to get skinny. I don't know how you call it, but she teaches that. And her podcast is called Faith and Freedom, because she doesn't want to be pigeonholed into that. She really wants that capacity of being bigger than being in her niche. Even though she likes her niche a lot, she loves her niche, but she wants her podcast to have that faith and freedom. So it feels really light, doesn't it, to have it be that spacious, right? So it's a very spacious show. And then she's showing up, and she is having some shows about spiritual weight loss, which is how she teaches it. But her thing is bigger than that. And so she wants to be kind of like bigger than her thing. So another person who does that, let's see if I can find it. Let's see. All right. So this guy, the Brian Buffini Show, let's see. The Giver's Guide to Greatness, Budget or Busted, Feel Better Fast and Make It Last, Finding Your Golden Ticket, Finish First. These are interviews with people. He actually coaches real estate people, but his show is not real estate based. Like it works for anyone who's looks like entrepreneurs. So you can have your essence of one thing, and you can have your show be, it doesn't have to be exactly that, even though I look at it like I want it to contribute to everything in my life, if that makes sense. So I do want it to be connected to my life and contribute to my life. However, it doesn't have to be your niche. It can be bigger than your niche, or it can be smaller than your niche. It can be a subset of your niche, and that's fine too. And then you're going to show up as mastery in that, and it's just going to bring you people that want to learn from you and stuff like that. So let's do this, guys. Let's take, should we just take like a little, we're going to take a bigger break at 12, but should we take like a 5-minute break? Take a little 5-minute break. I'm going to put it on pause recording when she can. So music. We're going to talk about music. So I'm going to do a little bit about introductions. And again, mostly what people want to know is what exactly should I do to make this exactly right? But if you listen to shows or you watch TV shows or you listen to radio shows, there isn't an exact same model for every single one. There's kind of 2 basic models for the podcast that people tend to use. So there's a simple model and a little bit more complex model. So the more complex model is the most popular. This has basically 5 pieces of audio. So there's a little intro music. Now the intro music could be connected to the vocal hello, but there's basically music. And then there's someone else's voice or saying, welcome to, the Long Island Medium, or coming up this week on Power. So the intro is usually music, and then it could be a standardized, this is the show, where every week on Glenyce's show, you get to hear consciousness and money and problems and life or whatever. So as you're looking at the intro, the most common is someone else saying, like, the show's great and this is coming up, welcome. So usually there's a music that, then you have the show itself, and then there's something called an outro. So there's intro, outro, and the outro can be simply music, or it can be, thanks for coming this week on the something show, and some standardized outro. So there's no right or wrong. There's what you want. So what you want could be just what you want. And it could be, generally, if you don't know, then you choose something that you like. So I like a different intro every week or every day. That's me. So this is what I like. So I don't like the standing intros. In fact, I always mute them. If I have a show, like I have a show I like, I'll mute the intro because it's the same every day and it just annoys me. It's like 20 seconds of my life I don't even want to listen. So if you like that, though, then go ahead and get one. But if you don't, then you can do a music and you can say your intro to every show. So you can say something like, hello, this is Erica Glessing. You're joining me for the Erica Glessing Show, where you receive 8 minutes of inspiration for entrepreneurs and lightworkers, or something like that. So you can introduce it yourself each show, and you can vary it, or you can have a standing one. And really what's best is what you like. If you're kind of wanting it to be a commercial rock star, so for everyone who's listening who wants their show to be great, like a commercially great show, perceived as commercially great, has a lot of advertising, has a lot of wealth, meaning a lot of money and cash associated with it, then I would err on the side of getting a professional voice to do the voice open for you, and just choose a very professional sounding open. Because if you're looking at advertisers, are going to be most comfortable with a standardized, the same every time, sounds really professionally, beautifully done intro. Okay. So you have music and then some kind of intro, and the voice intro again can be standing, it can be someone else, or it can be you. Then you have your show itself, and then the outro can be plain music, or it can also say something interesting that I like that some of my clients do that I haven't done, but I really like it, is they add an outro that sends people to a different show. So, today we listened to this story, and if it really resonated for you, what's showing up for me is on March 23rd of 2017, show number 752, there's a really interesting interview with someone that you might really like if you like today's show. So you can sort of see it's a best practice to have a call to action to another one of your shows. You can also put that in the mid. You can do mid-roll. So there's 3 places where shows tend to get broken up to different. One is the beginning and the end, which is intro and outro. There's also something called mid-roll. And so one of my clients really liked that mid-roll thing. And so they started pausing when they were recording. Then they'd do a different recording where they'd say, if you like this show, you're also going to love show number whatever, or you're going to love this other guest who's very relevant to this guest. So they kind of do something like that, which I think that's a really best practice. With my show, it's an 8-minute show, and I haven't wanted to break it in the middle. Like, it's hard enough to like end the person. Hard enough to get people to stop talking sometimes. So I haven't really tried to get someone to just pause it 4 minutes for a break, but I think it's a best practice. So do better than me. Outcreate me. I encourage everyone who makes a podcast to make them way better than mine. Just why not? Questions? Oh, so let's do the actual how to find music. I'm going to show you how to find music, which we just did in the other class I'm teaching that you guys are in. The most common one is Audio Jungle. Now, on one of my shows, I actually had someone custom create a cello. She plays the cello, and she custom made for me an intro and an outro with her cello. Now, this way I have the rights because she gave them to me, right? I did an exchange for naming her as the music intro and outro. So she built the custom cello, and it's beautiful, and it's one of a kind, and that really resonated for me. But I also like R&B. So let's just say saxophone R&B. See what shows up. So these are going to be like saxophone. I don't know about me. That did not sound like a saxophone to me. That sounded like a guitar. Ooh, that's nice. So maybe just give me a little feedback, Bree. On a 1 to 10, how easy do you think it'll be for you to find music?
I think it'll be very, very easy to find music. And I like the idea of different kind of music because each one of these people has different energies with it. And I love music, so I think it'll be easy.
Okay, cool. So you just want to kind of, you can use the same tools that we use in Access Consciousness is one of the things I can share with people who are listening, accessconsciousness.com, which is you can talk to the music and talk to the show. If you get the energy of the show in your head before you pick the music, it's going to be easier.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's just like if you need to find a dress and you get the energy of the occasion, and then you can find a dress that matches the energy of the occasion. But if you're not sure where you're going, it's really hard to pick a dress. You know, if you're going to a baseball game, the dress you were going to wear to the Christmas party would be kind of awkward. So if your show feels like a baseball game, it's a sports show, then your music should be pretty different than if it's like an elegant, nice dinner table set for Christmas, you know? So just really see if you can get the energy of your show. That will help you know music. Now, we're using different parts of our brain when we're picking our music. So this is it's a leap just like it is when you're coming up with a name. So we're leaping into our creative extra mind. So I really feel that this is something that each podcast host ideally would do for themselves. And I have tried to hire people to do it for me because in the beginning I didn't have any confidence that I knew how to pick good intro music. Like, it's funny going back to then because like 2 years ago, but I was kind of like didn't have the confidence. Like, I didn't know how I could pick good intro music. It sounds really funny now that I've helped like 25 people pick intro music. Going back to when I like had no idea. And in fact, there's about 6 months of my show where there's no intro music at all. And then I just asked the show to help me, and I started hearing the horns. I started hearing the horns, and I started hearing R&B. And then I'll show you what I ended up with. It took me quite a while to find it too. Let's see. I can you hear when I air things? Bria, do you hear when I play things?
I didn't hear any of the music when playing Audio Jungle.
You can't hear that?
I didn't hear any music, no.
Oh, okay. So it's playing. Okay. Well, at some point you can go to the ericaglussingshow.com, which is here. And then you can hit play in here. It's about, now I only have mine about 10 seconds. But some people do their intros are a whole minute. So I'm very impatient. So for me, 8-minute show, 10-second intro, getting the picture, right? What else do I do in very little time? No, I'm just kidding. I like sexual innuendo. It's really fun at my age because I'm still interested in sex, which I think is interesting because I didn't think I would be, but it is still interesting to me. So sometimes I do say that the length of a podcast also can't be measured by what's good for other people, because just like with sex, the right amount of time for you is the right amount of time for you. It's not the right amount of time for maybe a lot of other people. So whatever you like and whatever works for you, you need to really just get to know that. And the reason that you're getting to know that is because like attracts like. So if you go against what you like, and you create something to be something that you aren't, it's not going to attract as many people. You're going to attract more people when you're true to yourself. It's just sort of a basic rule of everything. So you want it when you're true to yourself. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean if you say a 3 days a week show and some weeks you don't feel like it, you still do it. Because once you commit to something, you still do it. This doesn't mean 24/7, 365, you wake up joyful, jumping out of bed saying, I can't wait to make my podcast. But it will, if you hone it, it could be something that gives you so much energy that you do still love it. Do you see what I'm saying? It has the potential for that. But it doesn't mean you're going to, liking the length of it or liking how, doesn't mean that you have to like be 24/7, 365 enthusiastic. Like people put the craziest expectations on themselves. Like a book I wrote 7 years ago, I'm supposed to still be in love with it. Well, I mean, actually I do still love my books, but then the one I wrote 11 years ago, it's really hard for me to read it. It's really hard for me to read it. It's like, it's so small. Do you know what I'm saying? It's so small. It's so confined. Like even the feeling of it is so confined. It's so confined. I still like the words, but when I read it, I just can't believe how small it is. Does that make sense? It's crazy. It's just something I did 10 years ago. It's like, it's still, so when you're doing a podcast, it's like, don't put yourself down if you get tired of listening to it forever. You know, like it's kind of interesting. Like when you do your self-expectations and your self-judgments. The reason I bring that up right now is because that's what usually stops people, is the self-judgment, is not seeing its beauty, not getting how cool it is, how awesome it is. It's really hard to see that in ourselves sometimes. So I just want to just share with you that sense of like, for me, when it's working for me, it's kind of like a kid. Like I love it even though it has flaws, right? Or I love myself even though I have flaws, right? It's that same energy. Cool. Any other questions thus far? We covered a lot of things so far. We covered naming, duration, style, content. Any other things we want to get into that whole, like, what it will look like, what it'll be like?
Just for me, more like the putting the music in. Like, do you just kind of recommend to look for YouTube videos or figure out what the program is on your computer? You know, like if I was, say, gonna add the music together myself, like put the intro in, put the,
Oh, no,
rather than someone else.
So I'm going to show you. Well, so there's basically probably myriad levels of audio production in our day and age. So I'm going to teach you the DIY way, do it yourself. There are copious numbers of sound engineers on places like Fiverr or Upwork that will do it for $5 a show or less or more, you know, between $5 and $20 a show. And then there's people that you can pay $1,000 a show and have them like do complete sound magic to it. So one of the best ways just for show quality is to make sure your devices are good quality. So if you make sure your audio recording is good quality, the microphone, just make sure you have a decent microphone. And I'll email you guys. I don't actually keep a list because John Lee Dumas does it, and I just kind of like share his. So he's been such a good supporter of mine. So I'm happy to send him business because he's just helped me so much, and he personally has helped me. Like he personally has reached out and supported my podcast creation, and then came on my show as a guest and had me on his show as a guest. So he's someone that I just really respect. And I built my show with a lot of modeling on his. So here's his low end mic, which I actually have it. This is what I use for my podcast recording often. So this is the 390 headset. So this can be found at eofire.com/podcasting equipment. Medium range, he recommends this one, and then he has a high end that he recommends, and then he has a shock mount system to suppress low frequency rumble on the microphone by absorbing and dampening vibrations picked up from studio desk or console. Let's see what that looks like. That's going to look like that. It's a shock mount. Okay. And then he has an overhead boom. Okay. And this would be if you wanted to have your microphone in a set way. I use it, again, the best place for it on the Clear Chat. I'm just going to show it to you. So where you want to be is here. So can you guys see that pretty good? It's a little bit below your mouth, above your chin, and about an inch out. So that's the right placement for your microphone if you have a headset. You don't want your mouth like right on it, but you also don't want it very far away. So except unless you're me, and my voice is really big, and so I actually have my microphone is 6 inches away from me, and that gives me better sound. So, but in general, they want it about an inch away. And let's see what else he recommends. This is a windscreen. This is a little cover for your microphone. That's for software, he recommends Audition, Audacity, and GarageBand. I don't actually do that. So what I do is I record it perfectly. So, well, let's say it differently. I record it perfectly imperfectly. So I commit to doing one take, and the only time I will re-record is if I mispronounce the guest's name. And then I give myself permission to stop and start over. But I don't give my guests permission to require editing, because sound editing is an expensive thing. It costs a lot to pay sound editors. And the bigger problem for me is the time it takes me to oversee the sound editing. Does that make sense? It's not really the editor. It's the fact that now I have to look through the show and I have to pick the times that I want them to edit, and I'm going to do this and do that. And I have a daily show. So if I add 25 minutes to the creation of a show for editing times 365, that's a huge commitment. So I have to really do that consciously. If I want to have editing, it's going to have to be a very conscious choice. It doesn't mean I won't have that in the future. Now, some people really like having a sound editor go over and kind of go through the entire thing and then take out, say there's a dog that barks or something, right? They can go in, and sound editors are phenomenal. So I do have 2 sound editors that I can recommend if you like them. Based on what I've said so far, do you see yourselves, just the people on the class right now, do you see yourselves using a sound editor or probably just running it yourself?
For me, just doing it myself.
Yeah. What about you, Bree?
Probably doing it myself. I think I need to change an energy because I usually have everything will be quiet. Then the second I start recording, all this nonsense starts. But I think I can work on that. And that's probably more the ease energy. So,
it's very interesting with children and dogs. And Lori, I know you've seen this too. The minute you focus on something else, they all get really loud. And I never really thought about that being true in an environment, but it makes a lot of sense. That the minute you're laser focused on, what?
Husbands too.
Oh, yes.
Husbands too.
Yes. I have 2 clients whose husbands just tend to kind of walk over and need things, right? When they start working with them. It's like, and the dogs for me, they always have to bark. They have to bark. So I just think, so for me, being someone who loves animals, and the client's dogs always bark when birds, they'll start tweeting. Like the minute I'm on the call, they'll start tweeting. So I just always try to like acknowledge it, because if you don't acknowledge it and you resist it, they actually get louder. There is something called pause. So if it's really out of hand, you can pause. I do my best. I worked for a television station for like 4 or 5 years. And so they actually were part of the PBS network. So we actually had like Barney came and did a thing, the body of Barney and the voice of Barney, the purple dinosaur came, and Big Bird. We had all these visitors from PBS characters. And so I got a real awareness of quiet on the set and how much it costs if you're really loud, because you're going to have to recut it. You're paying for studio time. And so my background was a professional background of recording. And so it was really hard for me, actually, guys, to do the podcasting because it was so relaxed. Because I liked that television recording, professional quality studio, do it perfectly, and then retake it. If you screw up, you retake it, But I don't allow that on my show, and I just discipline against it. I just don't. In fact, one guy came on my show, and I won't name names, so that'd be really mean. He started yelling at his son during the episode. And then he says, you'll cut that out, right? I said, yeah, I'm going to cut. You're not one of my guests. That's what I'm going to cut out. And seriously, like, the kid came in, he was so cute. He started jumping up and down. And he goes, get out, to his kid. And I'm like, you're on my show. You're being recorded. Like, I was really surprised. And then I just said, he had a handler. So I told her, yeah, he's not coming back. I'm not airing it, and he's not welcome back. So remember that you are supreme. And so if you have a guest that misbehaves, and we know some guests are super nice, and then they get on the show, and then they turn into like raving alpha weirdos, like, what on earth happened when we pushed record? You were so nice before, and now you're being raging alpha. And so you want to always give yourself permission, and it's not always easy, because I have really amazing guests, and sometimes I just have to say no. In fact, I did record a show recently, which is very surprising, because mostly now I tune in before and I get really nice guests and they turn out perfect. Like, I'm so lucky, right? I get really nice guests. This was someone I didn't really know what she was going to do, and so she started launching into something that was completely inappropriate for my show. And so I didn't know what to do. It was really interesting. So the first thing I did, guys, I did that because I couldn't even look at her. It's like, oh my God, I was like, what's she doing? And she's talking away. I'm like, this is so interesting. And then I went, okay. So the show ended and I didn't say anything. And then I got back to, she also had a handler. And then I went back and I said to the handler, that show really didn't work for me. So it's okay with me if she wants to come back though, but we can't have that. And it was a copious amount of time. Of the 8 minutes, someone talked for 6 of them. Okay. So I was like, that's just not what my show feels like. That's not the energy of my show. That's not how I run my show. So that can't be on my show, but she can come back, but there needs to be like give and take. It has to be banter because I love banter. I love give and take. See how much banter we do, even when I'm teaching, how much I enjoy bantering with people. That's just so much fun for me. That's my format. So once you know your format, you want to stick on that. And then you need to just make sure the guests live up to it. And if they don't get to get on your show, and it's okay. It's okay. Because you got to think about the audience. You know, you don't want to put someone on that's just going to like turn people off. You know, now I do my show often enough where if someone doesn't like a guest, seriously, they can push skip. Have you ever had a TV series you liked and you're watching one episode and it's so bad you just skip it? Right? You just go, this is going somewhere really weird and it's not doing anything for me. Skip. Podcasts are really easily skippable because you're going to download maybe 5 or 10 at a time. So, so start. I recommend that you go out in your circles and ask podcasters what they like. Go out and just talk to some people about what they like about podcasts and how they listen to them. Get some real-time first-hand information from people that you talk to. Do you see? Because once you start picturing how the audience behaves, then you can tailor things differently. So you want to spend that time and just kind of like ask some questions about how people listen to podcasts. And then I'm always picturing the binge download. So I'm always trying to have each show where they just download 10 shows. I'm always picturing the binge download. So I try to keep my voice around the same sound level. I try to keep my energy, well, my energy is my energy. So it's just always pretty crazy. But so that I don't have to work on that. But I try to just have things be so that like if people listen to many, I'm always asking that question of, seeing people liking many, right? Seeing people liking many. So that I'm really seeing it not as a one-off. It's so different than books for me. It's fascinating, you know, because it's different every time. So I think that covers a lot of the music, and I'm going to show you now. I'm going to actually do a little stop of this recording for everyone who's watching, and I'm going to do a DIY just on how to do the sound, how to do the music, show music. Okay?